Anyway, welcome. Um, so we've been doing for the past, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, we've been doing uh, inspiration and transformation live streams. Some of you might have joined us for some of those where we've had the absolute pleasure of being joined by guests, experts, colleagues, leaders to talk about inspiration and the many ways that it's shown up. And then slowly and without our even noticing, our anniversary of our book, the book launch, showed up. All of a sudden, November 12th was here, and it feels like literally a decade ago since the book. We were standing and packing up book boxes to send to people, but we
And
felt it was.
somehow also 25 minutes ago. Like
It felt like also 25
both
minutes
of
ago.
those things.
Exactly. So, but I am so delighted to be able to share Jen, Allison, and Sandy an open conversation about an extraordinary year since the book launch. And so let's get down to it, guys. Let's talk all things anniversary and inspiration. So let me bring you back to a year ago when we were just preparing to bring the book into the world with all of the emotions that brings. What do you think? What are you thinking on your anniversary? Take a deep breath.
Yeah, it's
It's
kind of
really
surreal to go back there. Yeah. Go ahead, Sandy.
in our ignorance of what was to come, right? What we were thinking about was, you labor over something. You write in the wee hours, you read and reread and edit and to the point where you don't even remember what's in the book. And then finally we were going to get to share it with everybody. And I remember being excited in hopes of a contribution and hopes of having the kind of impact that we want to have with the firm and with the book. And so it was a time of it was pregnant with possibility and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I think one of the things, as you were saying that, Sandy, that I remember back at that time, and to your point, we put so much into it, our heart and the true labor of love to bring these ideas into the world. And it was kind of about community, like bringing people together around a different new way of thinking about work and how we experience it and how we bring to life what matters most to us in the workplace, and beyond. But we were focusing in the book more on workplace experience. But it was like this bringing together of community of people who care about this and who believe in this human element and purpose around work. And even that weekend when we came out and we had a couple events, in November when we were launching the book, and just seeing who came out and what they cared about and their contributions, their voices in the room and why it mattered. To me, that was so incredibly moving. It was like, yes, this is important, this human element. And I actually think it's certainly still true today. Certainly still true today.
Yeah, Allison, I'll build on what you just said. I mean, to me, this is such an example of like, careful what you wish for, because never before has inspiration been needed more. Never could we have imagined a more burning platform for this work. We founded this company 8 years ago because we believed it was a birthright for people to be inspired in their work. We knew that that was a way to support organizations to be successful sustainably. And this has accelerated our cause. This has, the last year has really been a powerful confirmation for us that our work is needed now more than ever.
It's interesting because when you think about a book tour, right, there's everything. And we the hopes of being at South by Southwest, and we had our plan, our tour, our book tour. And, people will say for a moment, oh, you didn't get to do the book tour. And yet at the same time, beginning as our book tour was supposed to have begun, this evolution of needing inspiration more was also now, as one thing was kind of like, nah, nah, wah, wah. The other thing was, hey, this is more meaningful than ever. How did that feel? Like, how did that feel for you guys to have the book tour kind of not happening, but watching what was unfolding at the same time?
There was such a burning need in the moment of transition, and whenever that was, March, February and March, that it didn't feel like there was a whole lot of time to, sketch year-long strategies. It was like, we want to be there for the people in our community, and we wanted to give support as we can and just bring the concepts to life however we can. And so it didn't, I mean, maybe more for you guys, it didn't feel so much like a missed opportunity. I mean, yeah, South by Southwest would have been really cool to have our book there. Maybe we will sometime, but there was such an urgency about that time. It took away from us any sense of loss to a certain extent. And I mean, I learned from you guys, the immediate response was, we're going into this giving away everything we can to support the people that we're in relationship with. And I jumped on your train and was grateful for your leadership, and that felt right in the moment. And it was just a time to help people through.
Yeah, I think another thing that was kind of interesting that happened during that initial pivot was, of course, we all getting online and virtual, and, it was a whole different world at first. Now we're all quite used to it. But I remember the first couple weeks or even months of this transition, and a lot of what we were doing, or some of what we were doing, was quickly shifted to remote online. And so we had to be agile in how we were bringing these ideas into the world and pivoting with those who needed us to pivot with them. And in some ways, some of the things I've learned with the virtual and online is, we have opportunities sometimes to reach bigger groups than we may otherwise have in person. So that was interesting and moving. More global audiences where that might not have been possible. And then there's also this element of, you kind of get more voices in the room. Like sometimes when you ask questions and people get to contribute on chat, it almost feels more inclusive in some ways than sometimes when you're live. So while there were many challenges to all of this, there were also some nice learnings and positives that came out of that experience for us as we had to pivot.
I would agree, and thank God for Allison, because she had a decade of deep kind of, how do you do this online, both in terms of design and delivery. And so she had always been our virtual queen, but she really stepped in to kind of bring and elevate us all up really fast, and to help completely redesign our service offerings and products that we were able to offer. So Allison, huge kudos to you. Huge kudos to Serena. I mean, Serena had poured her heart into the plan that was, and quickly, like, just was our work embodied and moved into, a different shared mission. We had a different shared mission overnight, and she made that happen. So but it was, I mean, we're all working differently and managing the personal and professional, all of the change as well. So it's a big year.
I don't know, Laura, where you wanted to go next, but I say with humility and gratitude that my favorite thing about our book is that it's about agency. And it's about being able to bring inspiration into your own work, into your life. You don't have to sit and wait for it. And to me, that's what made it so much more relevant during this time when we're navigating so many challenges. And so the part of it that I hope is empowering and is really handing to people the key to the code, whatever the right metaphor is, made it feel even more kind of, or at least the opportunity became greater with that. It's about how to take charge of what's going on, and boy, do we need that this year.
Oh yeah, there's so much that's out of our control, and it feels like one area where you really can make a difference and you can have an impact. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it this morning. We were with a client this morning, and we talked about. We were actually talking a little bit about burnout, right? Something that's prevalent, and everybody's kind of teetering on the edge. But something is that loss of agency, and so the book feels like a no, 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 don't go there. Don't lose, hope and agency. And so I love that, Sandy. I wanted to get into the meat of it, right? The book is about inspiration and about how the research you've done and how you define it, which is the intersection of possibility and invincibility. And I wanted to talk a little bit how that is showing up right now, like how we've seen leaders both activating that, and then we can move into what that looks like moving forward.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, Allison's already mentioned the new possibilities we're finding, having been thrust into the world of online and virtual connection. But I'm now spending time with people far, far away that I wouldn't otherwise be seeing their faces, and connecting in new ways. And those new possibilities um, are exciting. And I think the confidence of invincibility comes with it. I'm learning that possibility, here's our Venn diagram, right? Possibility and invincibility are not independent of one another. There's definitely interrelationship. And so that one excites the other in some ways.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I was just curious for those who are joining us here live, if you'd be willing to pop into the chat, where now are you experiencing more possibility and invincibility in a world now where, there's a lot that's out of your control. There's a lot of places where maybe you don't feel like you have that. But what's just one example of a place where, personal life or within your work, where you've found new possibility and new confidence and courage to take action recently? We'd love to get some of your all's voices in the room too.
It's definitely happened. While people are writing, I'll tap dance. It's definitely happened for me in teaching virtually. I have a side job as a professor at a university, and there was like, oh yeah, I can lead class on Zoom, and then it was, oh, I can do virtual breakout rooms, and oh, I can do whiteboard and annotate and this, and you get like it builds, and all of a sudden there's all this. Now I'm going to lead a class all day on Saturday, but I'm super excited about all the capabilities that I can bring to that situation because of the new possibilities and new confidence that I have.
Yep. Yeah, and I actually was talking to someone yesterday, and this was really inspiring to hear, where she was saying that now, we do hear a lot, and this is a real issue, that people feel isolated or disconnected, and it's difficult right now on teams to feel connected, or you have to work harder to feel connected. You have to put more intentionality into it. I was talking to someone recently who said, yes, it's hard, and because we're putting so much effort into this, we actually feel more connected now than I think we did before. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really nice example.
There is intention. You didn't just pass each other in the hallway.
Yes, yes, yeah, that we had to make it happen. And there's I think it brings out maybe a different quality also, that we're connected in each other's personal lives sometimes a bit more than we are otherwise in this home Zoom environment. So that to me was really inspiring to hear, how she's created new possibility and invincibility with her team. Cool.
Writing in some cool things.
There's some great comments coming in, about active use of new technologies for design, and vulnerability and inclusion. I think that's a really great subject. I was going to bring up that in just as an example of new possibilities with connecting to people, kind of like you said, Cindy. But even I found, even with my family, like, oh, how did we never before think of hopping on Zoom to connect each week? Like, what? Were we waiting for a pandemic for that? Oh,
Seriously.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. It's unlocking some new ways of connecting. I love
Yeah.
seeing a lot of great things coming in here.
Starting my own consultancy, right? I really leaning in a time of extraordinary change.
Yes.
Love that. And the momentum. Progress is incredibly motivating and inspiring. It's great.
Quarantinis. I could use one of those right now. I don't know what it is, but it sounds really great. Thank you for that suggestion, Anne. Next time we come together, we will come with quarantinis.
I love it. Yeah, what Laura's saying, her she got called out. She had a cat appearance or cat appearance. Well, I think we've all had a cat appearance, a kid appearance. I was with my parents over the summer. My 85-year-old father did not understand that if he came up to me while I'm on Zoom, they actually can see him, and he just didn't, not really getting that.
But now we're all used to seeing each other's kitchens and living rooms and pets and kids and, and even on television, the guests come in and they're all, and
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about the book and inspiration in work and in where we're headed. There's so much to be thought about and talked about relating to that. And I'd love to hear, now that the book is out and we're at 1 year, and now we have this world, this world and this new future coming. What are you thinking about with the book?
I'll jump in. I was thinking about one of the comments that came up around vulnerability, because I think that that's an area that I know when we did the research and the interviews for the book, and we were learning about, what are ways that people can get inspired, but also inspire others. And vulnerability and transparency came up as a core theme. It's not what I think would have necessarily been on the top of my list when I think inspiration. Now it is, but at the time when we were doing it, it wasn't necessarily the top of my list. And so there was a little bit of a surprise to that. And yet I feel like that's something that we're seeing more and more of now as critical, not only in terms of how we ourselves stay inspired by just sharing when we're having tough days or whatever is happening, but it's also a way that others around us can feel comfortable and safe to also do that. And I think that does create possibility and invincibility, because people feel a sense of trust and connection and security when they're able to be vulnerable and have that human side come forward. So I hope that's something that we continue to see going forward in the workplace as being accepted and encouraged.
I would totally agree with that. And I think the best cases that we're seeing in, leaders setting the tone and really setting the culture of this look like truth and transparency around the uncertainty, and in that truth, there is an invitation to activate collective wisdom and collective capability. So, what CEOs are, saying, we don't have this all figured out, but what we're excited about is the work that there is to do. And we will figure this out. Here's where we are. Here's the reality. Here's the truth of where we are. Now let's build something together. That is what we're seeing at the most inspiring, culture levels, and boards that are doing that, right? Boards that are saying, we're not going to have a 5-year strategic plan. We're going to have an 18-month strategic plan. And we're going to revisit it every quarter because that's what's required as things are moving right now. So it's some pretty big declarations and doing things differently that I think are just show vulnerability and how it can be inspiring.
Yeah, and I think right alongside that is also then making room for people to connect to their work in more meaningful ways, right? Their values, their purpose, and really we're finding that people need that firm ground to stand on. Like if I'm doing this and putting my kid through school and the pet running across and all of this better mean something to me. And so getting connected to what that is. And I anticipate that being very significant in the coming years as we go through this and as we evolve out of it. That's not something you let go of and say, oh, I don't need my work to be meaningful anymore. So it's been a real call for that. And I see people connecting in really beautiful ways and finding more meaning than they perhaps knew they could or had
Sandy,
had to look for before.
I have to jump in. I haven't even had a chance to share this with our team a whole lot. Last Friday, we had the opportunity to work with a group that started working with us exactly a year ago. And it's an ongoing project where we're supporting them to get alignment around strategy and goals and leadership. And it was such a powerful session to have them look back. And we talk about getting everything on one page for alignment, right? So this group of 50 MD PhDs, super smarty pants, right? At this time last year, they were able to put together a plan on one page that they all were aligned on. Everybody had a kind of clarity of vision, shared purpose, individual purpose tied to department purpose. And what they reflected on was there's no way we would have been able to perform in the last year the way that we did had we not lined up in that way a year ago. So not only did they make the most use of their resources, not only did they, have clarity around priorities and when they needed to shift what they could shift, but they were actually more productive. They were more productive because they had the alignment. And it was just a really inspired, like that shared mission goes a long way, and it's going to continue to be super important as we're having to navigate crazy pace and change.
It's stuff that the people we highlight in the book talked about, right? It's not like this is brand new stuff. We've known for a long time. It's just this year of all that this year has brought things into stark relief about how critical those pieces are and how much we have to look for those deeper connections interpersonally and within ourselves and to our work, all of that stuff.
So I'm wondering if sometimes it's hard, right? Lots of us have lots of moments right now that don't feel inspired. I mean, let's be honest, there are lots of things inviting us to feel tired and worn down and overwhelmed. And so I'm wondering, as we stand here today and we have this amazing, this amazing resource and tool that's this book, where can people begin when it feels so big? Where can they begin their inspiration journey so that they know how they have the agency and know how to start using this?
So before answering that question, I just want to jump in and say, from my own kind of background in EI, and I think the importance of recognizing that we have all different kinds of emotions and we're supposed to have all different kinds of emotions, and we're not supposed to, we are definitely not the positivity police or, think we're trying to just need to be inspired every moment of every day. So, all of our emotions give us wisdom and tell us what we value. So we have to pay attention to those moments when we feel tired or frustrated or angry or, scared. Whatever those emotions are, they're telling us something. The way that I think about inspiration as an emotion and how we talk about it in the book is that it is underutilized as a resource, that we often think about it as this emotion that maybe we'll feel it and maybe we won't. And gosh, I hope maybe I will when I need to. as opposed to, oh, actually, I can produce it. I can seek it out and I can produce it. And it's not that you want to seek it out and produce it every moment of every day, but when you really need it, when for your most important priorities, when you go into the most critical kinds of conversations or meetings or family personal moments, when those moments are, when you need possibility and invincibility, when that will bring forward the best of you in those situations. So what our book does and what our research has found is you find those moments, or what those moments are, and then you have the tools and strategies to create it when you need it. So I think that distinction is important, because I don't want people to feel, especially in the middle of a pandemic, when yes, we have so many difficult things going on, that we're saying, be inspired every moment of every day.
No, I love
I
that.
agree.
This pandemic has given our team and us as leaders an ultimate training ground to practice what we preach. I mean, we're human too. And so, we come on calls and sometimes we're flat and we just help, right? So yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
I just think, I mean, dovetailing both of you, it's start small. It's peruse a couple of engines of inspiration. They're in the book, and this looks like it might be interesting to play with. I totally agree with what both of you are saying, that it's not like any change, right? It's going to happen in small increments and progress is going to feel good, but play with it to start. Lighten up. See what piques your fancy when you look at 18 different engines, and what do you think you could do?
Yeah, no, I love that, because I think the engines are exciting, right? It's exciting to play with them, and it's an exercise in knowing ourselves a little bit more. And I think what's been interesting in observation during the pandemic is people are seeking naturally the things that do inspire them, that make them feel better. And so there could be an invitation to then look at the things you're doing to make yourself feel better and map them to the engines and see so what the engines are, so you can reliably ignite them again and again.
There's so much of getting a lift from another person happening right now, right? We're seeing it publicly and privately. That's all over the place. And that's a really strong engine of inspiration that can really change your view and bring the kind of energy that expands what's going on. And so I love what you're saying, Laura, about recognize what's already happening. That's also a great way to start.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this is really tapping into, what you've taught me, that it's a leader's first job, right? To inspire their self, and then to begin to think about how to create a culture of it, right? How to bring it in as a fuel, as a resource. What are some thoughts on that, of ways to think about that and hold a vision for that?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Sandy.
What I love about the opportunity, I'll be quick, is that the forces are working in our favor in that regard, in that inspiration is contagious, like all emotions. And so living your inspirations is one of the best ways to spread it. You can get much more technical with setting up systems and processes, and we encourage that, and it's all in the book. But step one is live your inspiration out loud and let others benefit from that.
Well, let me jump in, Allison, just because Sandy just sparked, and we have a whole chapter on leadership and on inspiring teams. And it is a little more formulaic because we want to ground in research, right? We actually want you to know how to produce inspiration, and it's not, what inspires you as a leader is personal. You have DNA. What inspires a group of people can be more formulaic. Like, we know as humans, when we come together in groups, there's certain pathways for creating inspiring teams. We've talked a lot about them, like psychological safety and having a sense of belonging and your voice being heard. and vulnerability and transparency. So yeah, tap into the system chapters as well, because once you're inspired, it really is. It's you have a responsibility and a privilege to start to scale it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it does unlock those ideas. So, and we've got great examples of ways that people do this in very tactical and strategic ways in culture. But it's, you're going to come up with your own vision and ideas if you're inspired yourself, which is exciting.
So I want you to think aspirationally, like at the biggest level of you. You're passionate about this work and about bringing inspiration into the world. What's the greatest impact you hope inspiration has? That people building a world of inspired people. What do you hope will happen as a result of
I just went a little wiggy in my own head, Laura. I'm just like gonna warn you, but I'm gonna say it. That I imagined that on gravestones for decades after I'm gone, that what people will have reflected on in terms of contribution and value of a human life will be about the difference that their work made in other people's lives. So I can just imagine like actually shaping the reflection on people's gravestones or in their eulogies, that if their work is more meaningful and they are inspired in their work, the difference that can make in the world.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of inspiration as being something that elevates us to something bigger. And whether that shows up in terms of your, better performance and results, it can, it can show up in a lot of different ways, how you connect with people around you. But it elevates, it lifts. It's like the experience of what it feels like when you're inspired. There's a lift to it. And so I kind of see it as aspirationally, more people in the world being inspired is we're all kind of lifted up to be more, contribute more, as Jen said. I mean, really just bring us to a better place.
Yeah, I think about, there's so many good things that happen in work and in life. We're seeing them even as we help each other cope through very difficult times, professionally and personally. That's all happening when 1 in 8 people is inspired in their work. What if it was just 3 in 8? What if it was 5 in 8? Right? What if it was 7 or 8 in 8 people felt inspiration in their work? I mean, it becomes unimaginable. It's so exciting to me, the greatness that people can do. Go, Jen.
Sandy, people may not know the stat that you're referring to.
Yeah, it's a study that was done that shows that only 1 out of 8 people in general report being inspired in their work. And, we see that as humongous opportunity. That's why we talk about inspiration as an undervalued resource and such a great opportunity for leaders and organizations.
I get overwhelmed. Your work, your this book, this work in the world, is incredibly moving for all the reasons you just said. And I think we stand on a moment when the world, not just of work, but the world is being reimagined. What is possible on so many levels, and this is the fuel to me for allowing that to happen bigger and more and with even greater imagination. And so to me it's just amazing work. Last thoughts, because I'd love to open it up for those who are with us to ask questions of you or to really offer. So last thoughts. Anything else as you reflect back on this 1 year of bringing this incredible work into the world? Although you were bringing the work into the world before, it's the book that came into the world.
My big message, I think, for this year kind of harkens back to what Sandy really started with, this idea of agency, which is, we know that inspiration makes a difference. we know that it elevates. So don't wait for it to happen. Choose it.
Love that.
I'm totally in the same place. I got nothing. That's just what I want to say too. It's just um it is a valuable place at this time. Even if you're feeling below zero, it can get you back to zero. It's not always about riding high. It is the antidote to burnout. It is the thing that can elevate you, as we were talking about before. So choosing it now is such a great opportunity, so important. Ditto, Allison.
I'm going to go a little grittier. I'm going to go a little darker side of inspiration because we know it's there. Hard things, obstacles, constraints inspire us. It is a known truth. Many of the engines are darker. And I really am excited about, after 20 years in industry, I'm excited about the reckoning, truly like almost Darwinian reckoning that's happening right now across industry, where companies that believe in their people being a most valuable resource and actually putting their money where their mouth is are going to continue to rise, and more quickly. And companies that don't really feel that way, I do think are going to probably trend flat and eventually not make it. Because this is a totally new day where if you don't see that your people are driving your success, they're going to leave. They have choices. We know some of the best people right now they're on the move because they can be. And so I feel like this is kind of a moment of reckoning that I've been waiting for, to have this platform to say we can partner with you to realize extraordinary people strategy and how to manage inspiration as a most valuable resource in your organization.
I love that.